All right, so welcome back to episode 7 of the Football Minded podcast. This episode will be a little bit different. We're going to start off by covering the results from the new year and right after the new year. We're also going to talk about the Super Copa de España and some predictions of what we think is going to happen from the two upcoming games. Then we're going to talk transfers. Obviously, you guys know the January transfer window is open, so we're going to be talking transfer rumors, confirmed transfers, give a little bit of insight on them, and yeah, and Tony has a special theme for us at the end.
Yeah. So, I mean, to start to kick off the new year, what we're doing is going over the past results from this week. So the biggest results were Coppa Italia. So Coppa Italia, we had four games earlier just before Christmas, and now four games right after the new year. So the scores from these four games: AC Milan defeated Cagliari 4-1. Jovic got a nice brace, who's on loan from Fiorentina. So he's definitely proving his worth at Milan. We have Atalanta who defeated Sassuolo 3-1. And this Belgian forward, Charles de Ketelare, scored a brace as well. So he was a key player in that victory. And AS Roma defeated Serie B side, who were relegated last season from Serie A, Cremonese, 2-1. Two late goals by Romelu Lukaku and Paulo Dybala. And Juventus today, actually, on Thursday, defeated Salernitana 6-1. So Salernitana went up 1-0 after the first minute, but then Juve scored six unanswered goals by six different players. So it was a pretty impressive display by Juventus in after that first minute, where it just seemed as though Salernitana could run away with the game in what would have been a huge upset. So with that being said, these four games now they're joining Bologna, Fiorentina, Lazio, and Frosinone, who all four won before Christmas. So actually, Bologna and Fiorentina will be playing against each other. Bologna defeated Inter Milan, who are currently the league leaders and defending Coppa Italia champions. They defeated them 2-1. We have Parma, who lost to Fiorentina on penalties. So Fiorentina now will be facing Bologna in that quarterfinal. And now the more interesting one with Lazio, they're going to be playing AS Roma. So a derby della capitale
Oh, that's gonna be a fun one.
at Stadio Olimpico. So that's going to be an intense one to qualify for the semifinal. Lazio had defeated Genoa 1-0. And then Frosinone defeated Napoli 4-0 in Naples.
Shock defeat for Napoli. Yep.
Absolute shock defeat. I mean, Napoli, sure, they played mostly their B team, but I mean, it's a shock regardless.
4-0 is a lot.
Oh, yeah, still 4-0, especially on the road in Naples.
Yep.
Doesn't matter whether it's the B team or not, it's still a shocker. And then Juventus is going to be playing AC Milan. So, no, Juventus is playing Frosinone, and AC Milan will be playing Atalanta. So that's going to be a good Northern Italian derby as well.
Yep.
And now we can move on, I guess, to La Liga, which was the other country that had lots of football going on around that time as well.
Yeah.
However, this time it was league play.
Yeah. Two major games. Yeah.
Exactly.
Real Madrid beating Mallorca 1-0. Not nothing too special in that game.
No.
But probably the most exciting game of the new year so far was Girona and Atletico Madrid. Very important win for Girona, getting a 4-3 win. Keeps them, and they keep up with Real Madrid, who had one as well.
Yeah.
They're both tied at the top of the league right now, so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out.
For sure. And I mean, now with this win by Girona, well, it's really, I'm going to address Atletico's loss here because now this puts them in fifth place
Yep.
because Athletic Bilbao today, or no, yesterday, yeah, today defeated Sevilla 2-0.
Yep.
And also Barcelona defeated Las Palmas in a 2-1 comeback victory. So this sends Atletico Madrid to fifth place. Barcelona propels to third, and then Bilbao will sit in fourth. So that's what this result of Girona against Atletico Madrid has done. It's kept Girona in tied position for number one at the top of the table with Real Madrid, but then also brought Atletico Madrid all the way down to fifth.
Yeah.
And this could be and I mean we've seen seasons where third, fourth, fifth place has always been super close, right? So
Especially
a result
Liga,
like
yeah.
this, it could be a huge difference maker. So we'll see what happens.
So, and Barcelona last gasp victory versus Las Palmas. Gundogan scoring in the 93rd minute.
Yeah.
Very important win for Barcelona, who haven't really had the greatest of seasons in the league so far, but
No.
it lets them keep up with the top two. Potentially maybe form a comeback in the latter half of the season.
Yeah, it gives them a lifeline for sure.
Exactly. Following that, we have the Supercopa de España, where we'll be giving some predictions.
Yeah.
You got Barcelona versus Osasuna and Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid.
So
Yeah,
the way I see it is that Barcelona is going to defeat Osasuna. I mean, and Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. I fancy Real Madrid, but you never know, right? Atletico Madrid in a game like this where it's a one match elimination,
yeah,
they could always maybe pull off something, maybe even win it in penalties or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. But then again, I do predict a sort of El Clasico final between Real Madrid
I
and
think so as
Barcelona.
well. Yeah,
So this tournament is being played on neutral ground in Saudi Arabia. All three games, so both semifinals and the final. There are no two legs, just one leg. They'll all be played at Al Awal Stadium in Riyadh, which is where Al Nasser play. And as for the final, we will come back on the next episode to predict that one, since then our next episode will be filmed before the final, but after the semifinals. And I did want to touch on the French Super Cup, so Trophée des
yeah,
Champions, where now PSG have become the first major European club to win a trophy this calendar year.
yep.
After defeating Toulouse 2-0, it was a dominant performance, especially in the first half. Lee Kang-in scored about just a few minutes into the game, about that third minute. And then Kylian Mbappe scored just before halftime. There were two nice goals, two well put together goals by the team. And Toulouse never really had a concrete answer to that afterwards, especially in the second half. Sure, they had a few opportunities, but
The game pretty much went as expected.
exactly.
So yeah, I guess we'll be moving on to our transfer rumors portion. So we'll be starting with the Premier League, and as we go through the major teams, we'll also be talking about their recent performances, if it's relevant. So first and foremost, Arsenal, right? So really in this window, they'll be focusing on defense, potentially a left back, a right back. They may also consider some changes in the midfield, potential outgoings in Partey and El Neni. I really doubt the Partey one. El Neni seems a little more likely, and potentially Ivan Toney and maybe Aaron Ramsdale leaving, considering that
Yeah,
he's lost his number one spot.
yeah. Aaron Ramsdale, that's going to be an interesting case because, as you said, losing your number one spot, it is a little hard for him considering the season he had last season. They brought in David Raya, who hasn't been exactly an elite goalkeeper for them this season. Sure, Arsenal are getting the points,
I think he's been a
but
step
Raya
up though.
hasn't been playing too well.
I think he's been a slight step up over Ramsdale, but as a goalkeeper, having a season like that and then losing your starting spot, it can't feel good. I don't
No,
think it's
not by any
deserved
means.
either, right? Like it's him and David Raya are very close. I think Raya's slightly better as a goalkeeper,
Yeah,
but he's not that much better. Where I think Ramsdale should have lost the starting spot like that. I think it should have been. I think Arteta should have kept a little bit more competition between them.
yeah,
But whoever gets Ramsdale, I think he'll be a very good goalkeeper for them.
for sure. I did read a report now going to Ivan Toney that Brentford aren't too keen on selling him.
Well, they shouldn't be too keen on
Yeah,
selling him.
like they stated that they want to keep him.
I guess it just depends if the right offer comes along. Sometimes we see very inflated transfer
For
values
sure,
for players in the Premier League. So
especially in January as well.
exactly. So if a club is desperate enough and puts in the right bid and the right amount of money, I could see it happening. But if I'm Brentford, I wouldn't want to sell him. Also, Arsenal, they've gone winless for their last three games.
Yeah,
Lost
losing their last two.
Yeah, lost their last two. They looked very disappointing in their last two games, and this puts them in a very weird spot for the title now. You've got Liverpool, who are 5 points ahead, City, who are tied on points but have a game in hand. Um, Now it's definitely not over for them, but
Mm,
if, it puts them in a very difficult spot. They're gonna need to play catch up now.
for sure, for sure. And I mean, you mentioned now three of these top four clubs in the Premier League table. Wanted to bring up Aston Villa now.
Yep.
I mean, in terms of transfers, we haven't been hearing too much. We have heard through the grapevine that Clément Lenglet, their center back, is reportedly being targeted by AC Milan.
Actually, a couple clubs are looking
Okay.
at Langlais. It seems like center backs are a hot commodity right now, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I don't know what Unai Emery's thinking about that. Don't seem like they're gonna do too much. They're having a good season though, so
Yeah.
maybe if they bring in one, two reinforcements, maybe for depth, that could be good.
Yeah. If it
Yeah,
ain't broke, don't try and fix it, right? I mean,
exactly,
that's the
exactly.
approach that they should employ.
Like, the only thing is, it would be just a little bit of depth if they can. But again, I don't necessarily think that they need it. But yeah, next team, Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, don't aren't they always after somebody, right?
They're always linked to players. Most notably right now, a striker.
Yup.
So Ivan Toney's on the short list. Victor Osimhen, Seru Guirassy from Stuttgart, Santiago Jimenez.
From Feyenoord, he's been having a very good year this year.
Yeah, yeah. So Chelsea's name is always thrown around in these type of transfers. They have the money. I do believe they're going to make a signing or two.
Yeah.
Nothing too concrete yet, I don't think, but I do expect them to make one or two signings, especially considering the season that they're having.
Yeah, I mean, now we mentioned these four names here, and I mean, I think the latter two might be more a higher chance that Chelsea would get them than the former two, because I mean, as we mentioned with Ivan Toney, Brentford are pretty keen on keeping him, and
Yeah,
now with Victor Osimhen, he signed that extension on Napoli.
yeah.
So I mean, if he is gonna end up going to Chelsea or another club, it definitely wouldn't be this window.
Or
Probably
for a
it's
lot
the
of money.
summer.
Or for a lot of money. If Chelsea are really desperate.
Yeah, I don't know if
Mm,
Napoli would be keen on doing that though.
Probably not. Probably not. Especially since they're not doing too great.
Yeah, they would definitely want Victor Osimhen to help the club salvage something before the end of the season.
Or at least line up a replacement, right?
Yeah, give
Yeah,
him time for that, right? So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Fulham, I think really like the main thing with Fulham, obviously there's players that they might bring in. They probably need a center back, a center mid, but really it's Palinha. That's the hot topic.
it's the elephant in the room with
Yeah,
that club.
exactly. Where is he gonna go? There's a lot of clubs after him. Most notably right now, Bayern. He's been linked with them since the summer. Transfer fell through. Um, I don't know where he's gonna end up. Honestly, Bayern are looking every day. It's a different story at Bayern. We'll get to them in a second, but
Would you fancy your chances on Palinha going to Bayern
if Bayern really want him, I think we're in pole position to sign him
this January transfer
this
window?
January if we really want him. I think 60 million, 60, 65 million will probably be the price range for him.
I could see that as a last minute deadline day deal
Exactly, especially because right now there's a lot of drama going on at Bayern. Again, we'll get to that
for sure.
a bit later. Liverpool, not much going on. Reports are saying that they're probably not going to sign anyone. If they were, they'll probably look for a right back or a center back, so just for a little
Yeah,
bit of depth.
especially with Matip now being out for the season.
Exactly. So if anything, it'll just be for a little bit of depth. I don't expect a big signing.
Yeah,
Potentially, someone for the future. Maybe bring him in, as cover. Maybe loan him out in the summer. We'll see what happens there.
right.
Um, Manchester United.
There's
It's
always names connected to them as well.
exactly, and well, especially with the season that they're having, I'm not surprised.
Not by any
Um,
means.
yeah, so really for them, a striker, center defender, or center back. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
So for center back, I mean the top name that we've been seeing circulating on the internet is Jean-Claire Todibo
yeah, which would be a
from
good
Nice
signing.
for
Yeah,
sure, for
a
sure.
lot of clubs want him as well. We talked about him earlier on in a previous episode. I think it was episode 4. Um, Langlais as well. I heard his name being thrown around for United. But we do have a confirmed transfer out. Donny van de Beek went to Frankfurt on loan, which I think is a great signing for Frankfurt.
Yeah, with an option, a buy option as well for I
Oh,
believe it was 11.5 million.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
yeah,
double check the figure, but I know there was a buy option to it, and I think it's definitely in that range. But I'm gonna double check on that. So stay tuned for that. And I mean, yeah, that's the confirmed transfer out of United.
yeah.
They're
Which would be very good for Van de Beek going to Frankfurt. Like we've
for
seen a
sure.
we've seen a player like Mario Götze kind of rejuvenate his career there, which if Donny can do the same thing, that could be great for him. He's not old by any means, so yeah, that could be very good for him. City, we mentioned earlier, Calvin Phillips.
Yes, yes.
Um,
I mean, that's the prime name that's being circulated is Calvin Phillips potentially leaving Manchester City. There are a lot of candidates who would want to take him on.
yeah,
Probably for a loan, perhaps a buy option in the summer. I've heard Juventus are keen on getting him. There have been rumors for him with him going to PSG as well. That could be a possibility.
yeah.
I think Juventus would be a much higher likelihood. And I believe I don't know if there was maybe Newcastle that was involved in
For Calvin Phillips,
possibly getting Calvin
there's a
Phillips.
lot of teams that are. I even heard rumors of Bayern looking at Calvin Phillips. Bayern do need a little bit of depth in the midfield and in defense. But yeah, his name is just being thrown around everywhere.
Yeah.
Potentially Juventus, although they're downplaying it a little bit. I can still see it happening. I'm not sure where he's going to end up, but I'm positive he'll be gone by the end of January. Also, we heard rumors of Lenny Yoro from Lille
Yes.
potentially going to City.
Yeah, and he's been playing very well for Lille. Only 18 years old, but he's been one of the stellar players at the club.
Yep.
I was watching the PSG game against Lille, and he outclassed a lot of the players on the field. It was pretty impressive to watch, and I know PSG have been even thinking about getting him. Now there are no real strong rumors tied to him yet. It's not like with Manchester City. That is definitely there are stronger rumors to that.
Yep.
So I mean, is it even guaranteed that it's gonna happen? Maybe not.
Yeah.
It could be more of a summer type transfer.
Yeah.
So who knows? These are just rumors that have been out there.
Yeah. His market value is at 27 million euros. I could easily see him going for 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about it for City. Not too much going on there. I think the squad is very strong, anyways. Especially getting Doku as well. Like
Yeah.
I
And De
think they're
Bruyne
pretty
now
well
is
set.
back from injury, so
Exactly. So I think they're pretty well set for the rest of the season. Newcastle, considering the budget that they have, I think they can. I think they're probably going to make one or two moves. Um,
what do you think would happen with that club? What do you think their moves would be?
so really, a striker and a center back. As for who, I'm not really sure. Like actually, they need quite like Newcastle is the type of team where they could improve in all parts of the field. Their squad isn't
To get to that elite level, right?
exactly
Yeah.
exactly like obviously they have good players everywhere on the pitch, but to get into the cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, I think they could probably improve everywhere. So really for them, it's just about looking for who's available, and if
Yeah.
they slot into the team. I haven't heard anything too concrete, but then again, I do expect them to make a move, one or two signings. Um, yeah, and who knows? They might wait for the summer to make any major signings, but some reinforcements, some depth. They've had some injury troubles,
Yeah.
so I could see them doing some transfers to improve depth.
I've been hearing about possible loans from the Saudi Pro League.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Like, why not? There's some quality players there, right?
Yeah.
So,
And there are already a couple of those players who went to Saudi Arabia who now may consider leaving.
no.
We have Seko Fofana from Al Nasser. There are rumors that he wants to leave. There are maybe even Karim Benzema, who
Oh,
might want to leave.
I
I've
heard
heard
about
about
that. Yeah,
that. I don't know how strong the rumors regarding Benzema are. They're definitely stronger regarding Fofana. But for Benzema, who knows? These two players could definitely play for Newcastle. I mean, Benzema, he's won a Ballon d'Or.
yeah.
But I mean, Fofana,
And not too long ago too, right?
exactly. And Fofana, sure, he hasn't maybe played at a top team in the Premier League, right? But at least he's proven himself in Ligue 1 with Lens before going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
So I mean, a return to Europe could be viable for Fofana, and it could be a step in the right direction for him.
for sure. Yeah, and like I said, Newcastle, I think the main issue right now is depth. Again, they've had lots of injury troubles, and it ran their squad a little bit thin, and it put them in some considerable trouble throughout the course of the season. So, I think depth is a major priority for them.
Yeah,
And then in the summer, they'll really look at what big moves can they make to really drastically improve
right.
the squad. Um, but yeah, and then I think Tottenham. So Tottenham has a couple of rumors surrounding them. Really, I think they should really go like what they really need is a center back right now. They're interested in Genoa's Radu Dragusin, possibly maybe a midfielder and a winger, just add a bit extra depth. Um, what's it called Leach Huang Lee Chan or Lee, the Pep called him the
The
Korean guy.
Korean guy, yeah, who
Yeah,
ended up scoring the winner against them.
yeah. So he's valued at 22 million, and Tottenham are looking at him.
Yeah,
Potential signing for them.
but the main stories with Tottenham wasn't even a possible signing. It's actually been an extension, which they extended Pape Sarr,
Yep,
and then B, a callback. So they've recalled Sergio Reguilon,
that's true.
who
Yeah,
was
I heard
on
about
loan
that. Yeah,
at Manchester United, and now they've recalled him because they've been having injuries at the back line.
yep,
So we'll see what happens with Reguilon. Will he be back to to his better form that he was at Tottenham
yeah,
from as late as last season? So
and
we'll see
and
what
Dyer as
happens.
well. So Dyer is rumored to be potentially leaving. West Ham are favorites at the
Okay.
moment. Um, Again, who knows what's going to happen there? Um,
London for London.
yeah, yeah. So that pretty much concludes the Premier League. Again, we're still very early into the transfer window. We're probably going to have another one of these episodes in a week or two. Um, nothing too crazy has happened yet. Lots of rumors flying around. Um, one that I've heard about is Tilo Querer to AS Monaco.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um, so that one was for a loan with mandatory to buy. Actually, you mentioned that to me earlier.
yeah. So
Um,
it's 500,000 euros.
yep,
That's just the fee for the loan, and then with a mandatory buy clause of 11 million euros.
yep,
So I think that should be a decent addition for AS Monaco. I mean, as a PSG fan, he was playing at PSG. He wasn't too great. We brought him in at quite a bit of a transfer fee, and I mean, he had that high fee because it was a young revered player. Tuchel really wanted him, so they got him from Schalke, brought him in. Never really amounted to his full potential. They sold him at a very big bargain price to West Ham, and I mean, now he's going back to League One. We'll see how he does. I
yep.
mean, Monaco is always that team that no matter what player goes there, they can always end up doing well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think he'll be a good signing for them. Quality player that definitely improves their back line. Considering that they've conceded quite a few goals in the league so far this year, they've conceded 22 goals so far,
Yeah,
a little bit higher than what you'd expect from a top three team or top four club in Liga. So yeah, I think it's a very good signing. For very versatile too, can play center back or right back. So gives a little bit of versatility to the back line. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Monaco. Now, Bayern Munich, lots of drama going on there.
yeah.
Always lots of drama at Bayern Munich. But so I'll start with the potential signings. So Bayern came out and said that they have around 60 to 100 million to play with in the January transfer window. They're hoping to make 2 to 3 signings to improve some key areas in the club, which is I don't really understand the panic right now at Bayern because there is quite a panic. We've been having a pretty good season so far. Okay, we lost to a third division team in the DFB, but that was kind of a fluke. We've been playing pretty well in the Champions League, playing pretty well in the Bundesliga, and in any other year except this year would be first in the Bundesliga with the same points tally. It's just you know
Bayer Leverkusen have just been outstanding.
exactly. Like we haven't seen a team come out that hot in the Bundesliga in a long, long time, even to Bayern standards, right? So I think I don't really understand the panic too much, but potential transfer signings that have been rumored. Actually, these ones just came out not too long ago, maybe a day ago. We're looking at two former Chelsea players in Tomori and Shaloba,
Okay.
which honestly that would make sense. We need reinforcements in both those positions. Tomori, I think, would be great. We've been a little thin in the center back position, considering that we've been having a couple of injuries and we've had to play Goretzka at center back a couple times, which he's
Yeah.
done okay in, but you don't want to always play him there. Um, there's an increasing chance that Choupo-Moting leaves or potentially goes on loan. There's Man United who are hoping to get him, a couple of other clubs. Franz Kratzik, who really started to make a name for himself this year at Bayern Munich, supposedly could leave on loan, which I do think is good for him. It'll give him some game time, potentially grow as a player, come back in a year or two, maybe, just maybe, slot into the first team. So something that I don't like of what's been happening at Bayern is we haven't really developed our young players too
Mm,
much in the last couple of years.
okay.
Like we've seen in prior to 2014, we've had Kimmich came in. We signed Kimmich, but he really grew into that world class player at Bayern. We made players like Thomas Muller, David Alaba. We haven't really been doing that too much. Now there's hope with Matistel, but given the squad right now, there is a chance that he goes out on loan for game time because what Bayern are really scared of right now is to just waste the talent.
Right.
He's not getting as much game time as I think as I think he should. He's been putting in good performances. He scores almost every time he comes on, and he really does deserve a couple more starts. Right? He's embraced the super sub role, but for how long is he going to embrace that? Right?
Right.
I think eventually he's going to need to get more game time, and it's hard to see him start over the likes of Sane and Coleman and Musiala and Muller and Harry Kane. So
Yeah.
I think a loan might be good for him.
I mean, yeah, every time I watch Matista play, he's been an outstanding player,
Yeah.
to say the least. But where do you think he would go? Like, what kind of club do you think he should be sent on loan to?
So honestly, like any mid-table or lower end team in the Bundesliga, Liga could work. He's French, right? He won't have a hard time adapting. I think Liga would be a great choice for him. So yeah, just anywhere in Germany and Liga would be nice. Just somewhere where he doesn't he doesn't need too much time to get comfortable. Somewhere where he can hit the ground running and just get game time. That's all he really needs right now, just
Yeah,
game time.
an
So
interesting club could be either the likes of Nice.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that would be a very good club for him.
for sure. Nice, like even like a club like Stuttgart, he can get game time there, and they're they play. Well, I said lower end club. They're not really a lower end club this year,
Not
but
yeah, this year they've been playing quite well.
yeah, but he could definitely slot into that lineup. Maybe not out and out starter every game, but he'll definitely get way more game time than at Bayern. And on top of that, if he could be part of a title contending squad while starting, I think that could be very, very important for his career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's that kind of pressure, right? Where they could still fight for the title, but then they could also be loaned to a lower team who maybe needs to fight off relegation, say a club like Union Berlin.
Yeah, yeah. Although I wouldn't want him at Union Berlin. I want him in a more attacking minded club. That's why
Mm.
Stuttgart is perfect. The way they play is perfect for a young attacking player to develop. Like that's my number one club that I'd like him to go to if he were to go out on loan. And I'm obviously willing to see what Stuttgart are
Right,
thinking, what
of
Bayern,
course.
what's feasible. But yeah, I'm just being a little hopeful.
As you
Um,
should.
yeah, exactly. Like he's a great talent, right? He could be he's one for the future for Bayern for sure. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I really want us to like take care of him, make sure that he gets game time
I should make an article about him in the ones to watch section for players who are
for
one for the
sure.
future, you know. Maybe I'll make an article on him. We already have two out, one on Canadian international Ismail Kone, and then the other one on which was recently done on now French international Warren Zaire Emery for
Yep,
PSG, who actually made his international debut on in the November international window and even scored against Gibraltar, but then he got injured. Now he's back and he scored in Champions League against Dortmund on his return. So
yep,
I mean, this guy is one for the future. May even be the future king of Paris, as I put it, with a question
potentially
mark because this guy does have the potential to become the team captain and the start player on the team. So stay tuned for that. We'll definitely look into probably making an article on Matisse Tell because he is an interesting profile.
for sure. Yeah, and he could play anywhere in the front three.
Mm-hmm.
He could play striker, left wing, right wing, and he does the little things right.
Right.
Now he's not a selfish player. He always looks for his teammates and gets into great positions. He could score goals. He could run with the ball. He could take defenders on. Just a great, great talent. Um, but now onto the drama at Bayern.
All right. Let's hear it.
So you might be surprised by this, but there are a couple players that are being heavily scrutinized and are potentially on the chopping block.
Scrutinized by who though?
Bayern board members, Bayern media. The German media is very very ruthless, especially the ones that cover Bayern a lot.
So from all fronts, essentially.
Pretty much from all front, even the fans. So the number one on the list that might surprise you, not number one that'll probably get sold, but just number one most surprising one is Joshua Kimmich,
Interesting.
which is I think it's a little bit crazy to hear that considering the magnitude of player that he is, right? Like
And the
he's
burden he has to take on as well.
exactly like he's probably easily a top 5 top 10 midfielder in the world, right? Like he's up there. He's a world class player, year in year out. I think like it's very hard to fathom that he's actually being considered to be sold. And now there are rumors that obviously he's not going to go in January, but there are rumors that City might be interested, and a whole lot of other clubs are monitoring his situation. I think personally it would be a travesty to let him go.
Right.
Like we saw this with Tony Cruz,
Mm.
where he was being heavily scrutinized by the Bayern media and the board. They didn't want to pay him, and then he goes to Real Madrid, and look at the career he had after that. Just you know, consistently top 5 midfielder in the world. There's not many better players that can do what he does. Actually, maybe none at all. So I think it would be like a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to let Joshua Kimmich go. Second player on the list, Leon Goretzka. I'm not too surprised by that. Last season wasn't so great. Started off the season a little bit shaky. He has improved, which could help him. I don't personally want to see him go, but I don't think he should be a definite out and out starter. I think there should be competition for his place. He really has to earn it because when he became a definite starter, um, I think his performances dropped a little bit,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't want to see him leave, but I don't want to see him get that same privilege that should be awarded to Kimmich, right?
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't
he's
think he's
not the
earned that
same.
yet.
He's not the same player as he was back in 2018, 2019, 2020, right? Like
Exactly.
he's not up there anymore. I mean, it's not like I'm not saying that he'll never get back there. I'm just
Yeah.
saying right now his form, it as you said, it's definitely taken a tumble.
Yeah, yeah, but it's been going back up in the in the second half of the first half of the season. Been doing slightly better, but yeah, like I don't want to see him go. Next is Serge Gnabry.
That's gonna be an interesting one.
So I like Serge Gnabry,
Yeah.
and his 2019, I think it was 2019-2020 season was fantastic. He just hasn't hit those heights in 2 to 3 years now, and he's been getting injured a lot. He's been well, actually, at the end of last season, he had an uptick in form.
Hmm.
But considering the squad that we have, and considering that he's still valued pretty high, I would not mind seeing him get sold, which does hurt me a little bit because I do like Serge Gnabry. But at this moment in time, he's not having that big of an impact on the squad. There are other players that are just waiting to take his place that will do probably similar things to what he does and produce the same amount, and we could probably get 50 to 60 million for him. So I think I think Bayern should consider it if the right offer comes. Next is Matisse Delict, who
He's been scrutinized
definitely
wherever he goes.
the thing is with him is he started off well, and he's obviously a great center back. He has a great defensive mind, high IQ in the game. It's just he's never fit. He always gets injured, and you know if if we are to sell him, I think we have to have some replacements lined up, quality replacements, before we sell him. But if we do get those replacements, I could see Bayern moving on from him even just after a year.
Yeah. Kim and Jay definitely
Oh, he's been
his
fantastic
Kim and Jay's arrival has brought Matthias de Ligt's playing time down for sure.
for sure. Well, also he's been injured for a large part of the season as well.
Yeah.
Like it would have been nice to have him in those games where Goretzka was forced to play center back. But yeah, and then finally Alfonso Davies.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think he should be sold. And
I mean, yeah, with his contract soon expiring and stuff too. I mean,
yeah,
it's only logical, especially considering there's a high chance he won't resign.
exactly. I think 100% he should be sold. I don't think again, for the price that we're going to get for him, like he can easily go for 60, 70 million. He's a hot talent. Lots of teams want him. And,
Well, we all know which team he's gonna go to.
exactly. It's
Yeah,
going to be Real
for
Madrid,
sure.
which is, it'll be great for his career. But
Absolutely.
again, if we can get 60, 70 million for him, and I don't like, if he leaves, I don't think we're going to miss him that much. Um, Obviously, he brings like the only real thing that he really brings to the team is that crazy amount of pace in the
Right,
back
for
line.
sure, for sure.
But at the same time, now that we have Kim and Jae, Upamecano, those two are extremely quick center backs. I don't think we need that cover as much as we used to. Because like when he really made his name, we had David Alaba and Boateng still playing, right?
Right.
So those two players are not the quickest. So his pace was really useful. Like I remember in the Champions League final versus PSG, he was on Mbappe. That was his job. Although Mbappe still got chances, but he made life difficult for Mbappe. Mbappe couldn't just run by him, right? So
He played an instrumental role in that 8-2
against
thumping
Barcelona,
against
yeah,
Barcelona. Yeah.
for sure. Like he's a great player. Like I'm not saying that he doesn't bring value to the team. I just think that for 60, 70 million, we can get someone that brings similar value
Right.
to the team.
I hear you.
So yeah, that pretty much covers Bayern Munich. Actually, also there is Bayern are very interested, or should I say, Tuchel is very interested in Araujo from Barcelona, the Uruguayan center back. He's been top center back in the world, I think, in the last two
He's been up
years.
there. He's
Yeah,
definitely been up there. I'm quite impressed with how he's been playing both club and country.
Yep.
So
And supposedly Tuchel wants him so badly that Bayern are prepared to offer a massive transfer fee and almost double his wages,
wow.
which is a little unlike Bayern. But if he's Tuchel's man and Tuchel really wants him, and the board is fully behind Tuchel, I think we should pull the trigger if it's feasible, right?
Yeah.
Um, Also, we've heard rumors from Dortmund, like you've been saying.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, with Sancho perhaps, Jadon Sancho perhaps coming back to Dortmund, that would be something because, as you may have heard, it hasn't been going too well at Old Trafford with his
not good at
stay at
all.
Manchester United. Not by any means. I mean, there was that row with Erik Ten Hag, with him being banned from the training facilities, and now I've heard reports that he's been banned from the canteen.
Really?
Yeah,
That's insane.
yeah. So it's just really petty stuff that's been going on right now. I mean, hopefully it gets resolved soon for the club just to get rid of this whole issue. For fans, it's never fun when your favorite club is in the middle of all this. Whether
I want to say one thing. So I heard
absolutely
some rumors, crazy
say it for the
rumors.
cameraman, everyone's got to hear this one.
So basically, Eric Ten Hag, obviously we know he's in the hot seat. I heard rumors that Graham Potter might be the top candidate to replace him,
I have heard that too.
which would be insane. I don't know how United fans are going to feel about that, given Graham Potter's last club, but yeah, I think a lot of them will be happy to see Ten Hag go. But yeah, continue on. I just wanted to mention that
No
real quick.
worries, man. No worries. Thank you for that. I mean, yeah, Graham Potter could be there, could take over. It all depends with Ten Hag though, because every time we think Ten Hag is about to get fired when he's one loss away, he ends up winning a big game. So it's like it's all delaying the inevitable to the
Yep.
point where is he even going to get fired this season? Perhaps it could still happen, but we'll see what happens. And as for going back to Sancho, I mean, if he returns to Dortmund, that would be great for him, knowing how he's played there before.
Yep.
He's played very well. The yellow wall love him.
Of course.
So hopefully it could be his arrival could rejig and relaunch Dortmund into into strong form really,
Yeah.
and muster a good run, get a few victories, few draws, get a few points, get back into contention. Maybe not for the top of the Bundesliga, but at least for like a top three position.
Like solidify a Champions League spot.
Exactly,
Yeah.
solidify a Champions.
And you know
Champions
what?
League spot.
Jadon Sancho would then be added to a long list of players who have left Dortmund for a high fee and came back for virtually nothing.
Oh yeah,
Like Nuri Shaheen, Mats Hummels. You got what was it, Mkhitaryan. You got tons of players, right? So
I mean Mats Hummels, Mario Götze.
Mario Götze, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, like it's just the list goes on and on. I'm sure we've missed some, but yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, it would be fun. It would be fun to see Sancho back and help Dortmund be a key player in Dortmund's comeback into a season that so far hasn't been great. It's been great in Champions League, but not in Bundesliga. So if he can at least help Dortmund repropel themselves back into the top of the table, while also maybe mustering a strong run in Champions League, where they could go right now. It'd be round of 16, but they could go to quarterfinals, maybe even semifinals.
yeah, and even just for his career, just
For
rejuvenate
sure.
his career. He's a great player. We all know that. Like you don't go from getting 20 assists a season plus to just being banished from the canteen of your squad. It just
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. There's obviously something going on there. I know we saw it with him, Ronaldo, a couple of other players, Varane for a bit.
Varane, yeah.
So obviously something going on there. Yeah. Then moving on from the Bundesliga, we're gonna go dive into the Serie A a little bit. There's we'll start with with Inter Milan. I mean,
For sure.
um, so actually, you're the one who mentioned this to me as well.
I mean, all Canadians will know what I'm talking about here when we talk about Inter Milan signing a player or on the verge of signing a player, because we've been hearing rumors for the last several months about Tejan Buchanan leaving Club Brugge in Belgium to sign for a club in Europe. Inter Milan were always one of the favorites, and now it seems like they got their man. They're about to sign him. Buchanan now has completed his medical tests. The clubs have agreed to a fee. It's approximately 7 million euros. Personal terms are also finalized, so it's really just that final moment of putting that signature on the paper, and that's it.
Yep.
And I mean that's going to be done imminently, and by the time this is even going to be released, it'll already be done.
Probably. So you said approximately 8 million euros, give or take.
It was between 7 and 8, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe 7. It could maybe be up to 8. There may be even add-ons.
yeah.
So
And honestly, I think Inter are getting a great player. I think this might be a big break for his career because honestly, from what I've seen, especially I watched a lot of his games with Team Canada. He's exceptional. Like
yeah,
he's definitely a standout performer for Team Canada.
for sure.
And I could really see him taking the next step there at Inter Milan. And like the one thing that I characterize his game is just he's fearless. Like he goes at defenders. He's always intense, very intense in his play, and so something that you don't really see too much in the Serie A, which he could become a nightmare for defenders there, right?
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
you speak of fearless. I mean, with Tejan Buchanan being fearless, the one game I think where people really took notice of the guy was when New England Revolution were playing against the Philadelphia Union. This was in the 2020 season. It was during the COVID-ridden season, and it was in the playoffs. Philadelphia Union won the Supporter Shield that year, and this was not in the first round because there were like a few play-ins that New England actually had to play the play-in against Montreal of all teams, but it was their game against Philadelphia where they were playing in Philadelphia against the best team, and they were one of the play-in teams, and New England gave it to them. Tejan Buchanan was probably arguably the best player in that game, even scored a goal. So that was the one game where people really took notice of Tejan Buchanan. And then I believe he was there the next season as well, where New England actually won the Supporter Shield themselves, and they even broke the record for most points ever in a regular season.
yep.
They beat it. They beat the record from LAFC 72. Now they're 73. They went to 73 points, but then they ended up choking in the playoffs. But all to say that Tejan Buchanan, when he's playing against good players, it doesn't matter. He will still play well, arguably maybe even better.
Yeah, he won't
than
shy
normal.
away. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And I'm really excited to see the link-up play between Lautaro Martinez and Tejan Buchanan.
that would be interesting.
Very, very active players on the field. They cover a lot of ground, and the pressing is going to be insane. Like I'm really excited to see that combination
Add Mkhitaryan in there too.
as well. Yeah, he doesn't stop running as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it'll be great to see that
Yeah.
those link-ups.
And one more thing I wanted to mention about Tejan Buchanan, because I mentioned how it was big for Canada. All Canadians know about this, but this is actually huge for the NCAA as well in the US because he's an NCAA player. He was in the NCAA, got drafted by New England into MLS. So I mean, for I know there have been a lot of Americans on social media and a lot of NCAA fan pages commenting about this on how it's a big deal for them that a former NCAA player is now playing in Italy's top division for a top team in the world, for the defending Coppa Italia champions and also the defending finalists
Yep.
of the UEFA Champions League.
It really shows the growth of football here in North America, right?
Absolutely.
There's so much young talent coming out of Canada and the United States. No, I'm just really looking forward to the future for that, honestly.
For sure.
But yeah, so back to the transfers. In the Serie A, I think that pretty much covers Inter Milan. I don't think I've heard anything else from Inter Milan.
That's the big story coming out of there.
Yeah. Then you got Juventus, who are having a very underrated season, really flying under the radar. But I really think that like they're contending for the title. They're playing really, really well. Very organized, compact team, typical Allegri team, right? But they're getting the results. They're being consistent, and yeah. So basically, they're supposedly in the race for Calvin Phillips. Although they've downplayed those rumors, they're still in the race, I think.
Yeah. I feel like they're going to be the team that ends up getting them, honestly.
Potentially. I'm not, again, there's nothing concrete there. They have gone out and addressed it, saying like they've downplayed it. They haven't completely written it off, but they've downplayed the transfer. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Also, we've heard a lot of rumors for Vlahovic, who's obviously we know a great player, and strikers like him are again a hot commodity right now. Not too many of them on the market, but Juventus have gone out and said that he's not for sale, and they aren't planning on selling him, which honestly I think is the right call for
Very
Juventus.
wise move by
Yeah.
Juventus to do that.
They've spent a lot of money on him. I think it was like 70 million. His signing around that 70, 80 million.
I'll have to double check, but it was definitely really high.
Yeah, so and I don't think he's been bad by any means. I think he's been pretty good. Maybe not like that superstar that they were hoping for, but he could still develop into that, right?
Oh, for sure.
So Yeah, I think they're making the right call.
So it was
And
actually 83.5, including add-ons.
yeah, so there you go. So a large investment there by Juventus. Um, but yeah, so they said he's not for sale. I don't doubt that. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the Serie A.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And I mean, now we'll move on to another major club who's been a little bit in the news during this transfer window, and that's FC Barcelona.
always in the news.
Of course, of course. I mean, whether it's them not being able to afford certain
Or
players,
pay players' wages,
yeah. So I mean, now what we have from them is Vitor Roque from Brazil. He's been now signed for 40 million euros. So I mean, that's a major signing for them. He's already made his debut now against Las Palmas today.
yep.
So that's big for Barcelona. I don't think they're going to be making any other signings really this January. Deco now has come out and said that they're not going to sell any players either.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens there. And now Vitor Roque coming to Brazil, it's now creating this wave. I mean, we have these waves more or less every now and then in a transfer window, but it's these Brazilians coming to Europe. And I mean, we're already having quite a few in literally just the first few days in the January window. We have Vitor Roque now, who's officially gone to Barcelona from Atletico Paranense. We have Marcos Leonardo, who's now confirmed today, going from Santos, who have been relegated just now. He's gone to Benfica for 18 million
Which is
euros.
big for Santos, getting 18 million euros right now in the state that they're in.
Oh, for
that
sure.
that could potentially save the club.
For sure, for sure. When you go down to Brazilian second division, I mean, you don't have money is tight.
Yep.
So when you get money in euros too on top of it,
Yep.
that's going to be solid for them. So as you rightfully mentioned, that's huge. It's
Yep.
massive for them. So Leonardo to Benfica, this young player Nino, who went from Fluminense, who were the Copa America winners. They featured in the Club World Cup, made it to the final, lost to Manchester City 4-0. He's going to Zenit for 5 million euros. That's just been confirmed as well. We have now another confirmed transfer with Lucas Beraldo, who recently, just a couple of days ago, signed with Paris Saint-Germain for 20 million euros. So he went from Sao Paulo to PSG. He already made his debut in the Trophée des Champions against Toulouse. So that's very good for him. I mean, there's more to come for sure, and more to come even just on PSG's end. We have now Gabriel Moscardo, another Brazilian, who played at Corinthians. He is he will be imminently signed by PSG. He was supposed to be signed today, didn't happen. Maybe by the time this is even released, he'll officially sign. I know there were just some issues because then he picked up an injury, and then it's just slowed the process a little bit. But I think this should be signed within the coming days. I mean, by the time this is released, he may already have been signed and even unveiled as a player. So that will be huge for PSG. That's already two players coming from Brazil into Paris. There's another guy. He's not Brazilian though, but he is being courted by PSG. This Ecuadorian international, Alan Obando. He plays for SC Barcelona in Guayaquil in Ecuador. So this could be another player, 17 years old. I don't know too much about him, admittedly, but I mean, he's being courted by PSG. Some people rate him quite highly. So we'll see what happens. That one, it's just been more of a mention.
Yep.
That PSG's after him, but it's been from credible sources. So stay tuned for that. And then also, well, we have now Lyon, another French club, looking to sign player John Kennedy, not the deceased president, but a young Brazilian prospect from Fluminense as well. So he was on that team, won the Copa America. He was featuring in the Club World Cup. So Lyon, who's been desperately in need of attacking players, could maybe get this guy to complement Lacazette's play. We'll see what happens.
They need it.
They definitely need it. They definitely need it. I mean, I don't know if Mathis Tel maybe could be.
That would actually be very interesting.
Player.
Yeah. To send to Lyon, they are a pretty supposedly attacking team, and they need those players right now.
For sure. I think it all depends with Lacazette and how he would gel with Lacazette, because Lacazette, he's been like that perennial striker, right? He's a bona fide.
Tel's played on the wing, for most of the time at Bayern, so I think he would slot in on that left wing position there.
Okay.
But again, this is just speculation.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe in a hopeful tone. Who knows? But I mean, with Lyon, it will be very interesting to see what happens. They as you mentioned, they need those attacking players.
Yeah.
They need to get those points to get out of. I mean, they're right now out of relegation zone, but we're only talking about 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, yeah,
They really need to get out of there, even into the mid-table. Coupe de France is now starting,
yeah,
so hopefully maybe they can try and get into Coupe de France, and that could be their way in back into Europe, into the Europa League.
for sure. Yeah, and like
So
traditionally, Lyon is a very attacking team, right?
yeah,
Very very positive football type of team. So, I would love to see them get back to that,
for
right?
sure, for
Um,
sure.
Yeah. So that was pretty much the Brazilian theme that you had mentioned, right? Lots of young Brazilians coming from the Serie A in Brazil to Europe. And now, pretty like for the final segment of the episode, it's going to be a very quick one, but we have a couple of confirmed concrete transfers. Obviously, there has been a ton, but we're really going to focus on the bigger ones. So Isakien from Hellas Verona to Atalanta for 9 million. Fabio Silva from Wolves, and I really do think this might have to do with their financial fair play situation. Um, he's a good player, right? He's a good young talent.
Yeah,
Hasn't really had the impact that they hoped he would make. Maybe I'm not sure if it's due to financial fair play that they loaned them out. Potentially save on his wages or something. I have no clue, but I think him moving to Rangers could be good for his career.
for sure.
Maybe put that spark back into his career. Um, and then finally, probably the biggest transfer so far that's happened, other than Vitor Roque, will probably be Elmas from Napoli to Leipzig for 24 million euros.
Yeah, yeah. NFL Mas. I mean, I'm a Napoli fan. I always liked this player, but I knew that this transfer was inevitable.
Yeah,
This transfer to Leipzig is going to be very good for him now. He's still going to a solid German team who could even compete, maybe not for the Bundesliga, like number 1 spot, but definitely that number 3 or number 4, that Champions League spot. They're
exactly.
still in contention for the DFB Pokal.
Still in Champions League,
They're still in Champions League
although
as
they
well.
play what's their name? They play Real Madrid.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. But I mean, Elmas, he's used to playing big teams. He was on that Napoli winning side
Yeah,
last season for the Scudetto. He's played against Real Madrid in the group games
yeah,
for Napoli, so it's not new to him.
exactly. Yeah, an experienced player. I think he'll be very good for Leipzig. And yeah, that pretty much concludes what we had planned for this episode.
Yeah, it's been very
Um,
transfer focused as you've heard.
well, not much football going on other than Laliga just started. We had a couple games in Italy, Premier League. England never stops.
Yeah,
But yeah, so look out for next week. We'll be
yeah,
pretty much covering AFCON as it starts on the 13th.
yep.
Also, the Asia Cup starts on the 12th, so we'll have a bit for those two right there.
Yeah, we'll definitely have material for that for the next episode, which will be next week. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and also we'll also be keeping up with the transfers. Obviously, we should have some more from now till next week. Hopefully, some big names moving. You never know. Maybe some that we just talked about today. Um, but yeah, so other than that,
I think
thank
it's
you for
all.
watching.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, and we'll see you next week. So have a great week.